The winter afternoon sun cast long shadows across Madison Square, where thousands of people rushed past like water around stones. Nobody noticed the man on the bench. Not anymore. Jake Mercer had been invisible for 3 months now. Not literally, but in every way that mattered. His expensive suit had given way to a threadbare jacket. His executive briefcase had become a battered backpack. The corporate world he'd conquered had discarded him like yesterday's news, and the city he'd helped build had forgotten his name. In his trembling hands, he clutched a small wooden box, its surface worn smooth by constant handling. Inside was his last hope or his final delusion. He couldn't tell any more which was which. "Excuse me." The voice cut through his fog like a blade of light. Jake looked up to find a woman standing before him, her auburn hair catching the fading sunlight. She wore a simple green coat and had eyes that actually saw him. Not through him, not past him, but truly looked at his face. "Are you all right?" she asked, her concern genuine, not performative. Elena Rodriguez had learned to notice what others missed. As a trauma nurse, she developed an instinct for pain, and this man radiated it like heat from asphalt in summer. I'm fine," Jake muttered, the lie automatic after months of practice. But Elena didn't move. She sat down beside him, close enough that their shoulders nearly touched. The warmth of another human presence made Jake's throat tighten. "That box," she said softly, nodding at his hands. "You've been holding it like it contains something precious. What's inside?" Jake's fingers tightened reflexively. Nobody had asked him a direct question in weeks. The people at the shelters barked orders. The strangers on the street avoided questions entirely. But this woman, Elena, he would soon learn, waited with patient curiosity. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you," he whispered. "Try me." Something in her voice, a gentle challenge wrapped in kindness, made Jake look at her again. Really look. She had laugh lines around her eyes and a small scar on her chin. She'd lived, struggled, survived. Like him, in her own way. 3 months ago, I lost everything, he began, his voice cracking. My job, my apartment, my fiancée who couldn't handle the shame. I was walking through an antique shop in Chinatown, spending my last $20 on whiskey money, when I found this. He held up the box. It was unremarkable. Carved wood, slightly damaged, with strange symbols etched into its lid. The shopkeeper said it contained hope for those who'd lost everything. I thought he was selling me fairy tales. Jake's hands shook. But every night, when I hold this box, I feel something inside. Something alive. Elena leaned closer, her breath visible in the cold air. "Then open it." Jake's fingers hesitated on the clasp. "I've been afraid," he admitted, his voice barely audible above the city's symphony. What if opening it means losing even this last piece of possibility? Elena reached out, her hand resting gently on his. Her skin was warm, vital. Sometimes we have to risk losing everything to gain anything at all. Their eyes met, and in that moment, something shifted between them. A recognition, perhaps, of two souls who understood what it meant to stand at the edge of hope and fear. Jake took a breath and opened the box. Light erupted from within, not harsh or blinding, but soft and golden, like dawn breaking over the ocean. The entire square seemed to pause, though the crowd continued their oblivious rush. From the light emerged a creature no larger than Jake's palm, with translucent wings that shimmered with colors that had no names. "Oh my God!" Elena breathed, her scientific mind struggling against what her eyes witnessed. The creature hovered between them, its presence filling the air with a subtle warmth that pushed back the winter cold. When it spoke, its voice was like wind chimes in a summer breeze, heard not with ears but felt in the chest. At last it sang, someone with courage to see and compassion to witness. Elena's rational mind cataloged possibilities. Hallucination, elaborate trick, shared delusion brought on by stress. But her heart, the part of her that had held dying patients and felt them slip away to somewhere she couldn't follow, knew this was real. "What are you?" she asked. "I am what remains when hope crystallizes," the creature replied. "Born from 1,000 wishes made over centuries, I exist only for those forgotten by the world, and I grant a single wish to whoever shows kindness without expectation of reward." The creature turned its luminous gaze to Elena. "You stopped when others walked past. You asked when others remained silent. You saw a human being when others saw only a problem to avoid. The wish is yours." Jake's head snapped toward Elena, shock replacing despair. "No, I found the box. I've been carrying it for months." "You carried it," the creature agreed. "But you did not open it until she gave you courage. You did not believe until she believed in you. The magic recognizes this." Elena looked at Jake, this stranger who'd been invisible to everyone but her. In his eyes, she saw her own reflection, someone who'd spent so long caring for others that she'd forgotten what it meant to reach for something miraculous for herself. She could wish for anything: money, success, love, fame. The possibilities spiraled through her mind like falling snow. But when she opened her mouth, the words that emerged surprised even her. "I wish." She paused, holding Jake's desperate gaze. "I wish for Jake to have everything he needs to rebuild his life: purpose, opportunity, and the strength to believe in himself again." The creature's light intensified, expanding until it enveloped both Jake and Elena in a cocoon of warmth. The square around them seemed to fade, as if they existed in a pocket of reality separate from the rushing world. "A selfless wish," the creature whispered, its voice filled with something like joy. "These are the rarest and most powerful of all." The transformation began. Jake's threadbare jacket shimmered, threads reweaving themselves into a tailored charcoal suit that fit him perfectly. But the change went deeper than clothes. The hollowness in his eyes filled with something vital. Not just hope, but certainty. The defeated slump of his shoulders straightened into confident posture. Even his hands, which had trembled moments before, steadied. But more than his appearance changed. Elena watched as understanding flooded his face, as if puzzle pieces of his life suddenly locked into place. "I can see it now," Jake breathed, his voice no longer broken. "The investors who are looking for someone with my experience. The startup that needs exactly my skills. The connections I thought I'd lost, they're not gone, just waiting for me to reach out without shame." He looked at his hands, flexing them in wonder. "I can feel my confidence returning, like blood flowing back into a numb limb." The crowd, which had flowed around them like water, suddenly stopped. People turned, noticing Jake for the first time. Whispers rippled through the square. "Is that Jake Mercer? I thought he disappeared. He looks amazing." But Jake's attention wasn't on them. He turned to Elena, his expression a mixture of gratitude and something deeper, something that made her breath catch. "You gave away a miracle," he said softly. "For a stranger." "You weren't a stranger," Elena replied, though she couldn't explain why that felt true. "You were someone who needed to be seen." The creature began to fade, its task complete. But before it vanished entirely, it drifted to Elena, hovering before her extended hand. "True selflessness creates its own magic," it sang. "You gave freely, expecting nothing. But gifts given in pure compassion must be returned in kind." The creature touched Elena's palm, and a mark appeared, a symbol that matched the ones carved into the wooden box, glowing faintly gold before settling into her skin like a tattoo of light. "You now carry what I am," the creature said as it began to dissolve into sparkles of luminescence. "When you encounter those lost in darkness, you will know, and you will have the power to help them find their light. Use it wisely. Use it with the same heart you showed today." The light vanished. The box in Jake's hands crumbled to dust, its purpose fulfilled. They sat in stunned silence as the world rushed back to normal around them, except nothing was normal anymore. "Coffee," Elena said suddenly, her voice slightly unsteady. "I think we need coffee." Jake laughed, actually laughed, and the sound was rusty but genuine. "I know a place. Unless you're worried about being seen with me now that I'm apparently back from the dead." "I saw you before," Elena reminded him. "That's not going to change." They walked through the darkening streets to a small cafe tucked between towering buildings. Inside, warmth and the scent of roasted beans welcomed them. They chose a corner booth, sitting across from each other as the reality of what had happened settled over them like snow. "Tell me," Elena said, wrapping her hand around her mug. "Tell me who you were. Who you are." So Jake talked. He told her about building a tech company from nothing, about the betrayal that destroyed it, about the fiancé who'd left with his former partner. He told her about the months of invisible existence, of learning what it meant to be nothing in a city that only valued success. And Elena listened the way she'd learned to in hospitals, with full presence, without judgment. "Your turn," Jake said finally. "Who stops for invisible men in Madison Square?" Elena smiled, a hint of sadness in it. "Someone who knows what it's like to be unseen in a different way. I've spent 15 years in trauma bays, holding people together, literally and figuratively. I've saved lives I'll never remember, touched hundreds of families in their worst moments. But when I go home..." She paused, looking into her coffee. "Nobody sees the person who does the saving. They just see the nurse, the caretaker, the one who's always strong." Jake reached across the table, his hand covering hers. The touch sent electricity up Elena's arm. "I see you," he said quietly. Their eyes met, and the moment stretched, loaded with possibility. The cafe around them faded the way the square had earlier, leaving just the two of them in their small pocket of connection. "This is crazy," Elena whispered. "We just met, and under the most impossible circumstances. My whole life just got rebuilt by a magical creature because you made a selfless wish," Jake countered, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "I think we're past normal." Elena laughed, the sound breaking some tension between them. But when Jake stood and slid into the booth beside her instead of across from her, the tension returned. Different now, charged with awareness. "Thank you," he said, close enough that she could feel his breath. "Not just for the wish. For seeing me when I'd become invisible. For stopping when everyone else walked past. For being brave enough to care about a stranger." "Jake," Elena breathed, her hand on his chest, feeling his heartbeat racing like her own. "Yes. I'm going to kiss you now. Please do." Their kiss was tentative at first, a question asked and answered. But then it deepened, becoming something more urgent, more real than magic or wishes. Elena's hand slid into Jake's hair while his arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer in the booth. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, the cafe had emptied around them without their notice. "Come home with me," Elena whispered against his lips. Jake pulled back just enough to search her eyes. "Are you sure? I just gave away a wish and received the power to help lost souls," Elena said with a shaky laugh. "I think I can be sure about wanting this. About wanting you." Her apartment was modest but warm, the home of someone who spent most of their life elsewhere. They barely made it inside before they were kissing again, more urgently now, months of loneliness and invisibility melting away under the heat of connection. Jake's hands trembled slightly as he unbuttoned Elena's coat, then her blouse, revealing skin that flushed under his touch. She gasped as his lips traced her collarbone, her neck, finding sensitive places that made her arch against him. Still invisible, she teased breathlessly. "Never again," he promised, lifting her as she wrapped her legs around his waist. "Not to you. Never to you." They moved to her bedroom in a tangle of shed clothes and whispered discoveries. The mark on Elena's palm glowed faintly when their hands intertwined, a reminder that magic had brought them together but couldn't explain the chemistry that ignited between them. Their lovemaking was intense and tender by turns, two people who'd been alone too long finding solace and passion in each other. Elena traced the new confidence in Jake's movements while he worshipped the strength and softness of her body with equal reverence. Afterward, wrapped in sheets and each other, they watched dawn paint the windows. "What happens now?" Elena asked, her head on Jake's chest, listening to his heartbeat. "Now I rebuild," Jake said, pressing a kiss to her hair. "I have meetings tomorrow. I can't feel the knowledge of exactly who to call, what to say. The wish gave me the tools, but I have to do the work. And us." Jake turned to face her fully, his hand cupping her cheek. "I'm not walking away from the woman who saved me. If you'll have me, The real me, not just the transformed version. I want to see where this goes. Elena looked at her palm, where the mark had settled into her skin like a promise. She thought about the power she now carried, about the people she might help, about the strange and wonderful turn her life had taken. But mostly, she thought about the man beside her and how sometimes the most unbelievable things were simply humans choosing to see each other, truly see each other, in a world designed to make people invisible. "I'll have you," she whispered, pulling him close again. "I saw you when you were invisible. I'll definitely have you now." Outside, the city woke to a new day, and two people who'd been lost found themselves remarkably, impossibly found.